On today's show, it's all about water heater cost in Houston. Why do you need one? Well, you know you have to have one.
I'm John Eccles.
I'm Richard Sod. Thank you for tuning in today.
All right, well, let's jump right in, 2 feet. Today we're going to be talking about two different types of heaters. There's hundreds of types that we're not going to touch on, which are mainly the new and popular hybrid units. But we're going to be focusing on tank versus tankless and what it costs, right? So let's start off, first of all, talking about, we're going to be discussing basic install. Whenever you're inviting a plumbing company out to your house to give you estimates on putting in a new water heater of whatever sort, there's a plumbing code that we have to go by. It's a law that we have to do certain things. And if your heater's not up to that code, and these variables, there's hundreds, right? I mean,
Lots of variables.
Lots of variables that can really change this price. We're not going to talk about that right now. We want to give you a general idea kind of what to expect, right? So let's start off with tank-style heaters, right? First of all, there's going to be a price difference in if we provide the material versus the customer. If you provide the material, normally those start somewhere in the range of $800 and up, depending on some factors that we're going to discuss. And if we provide the material and the labor, which a lot of customers like to do because they don't want the headache of having to pick up their unit and bring it back home, those kind of range starting about $1,500 and up. Now, what can drive that price up from that? Well, warranty is a big thing. Standard manufacturer warranties on these tank heaters start at 6 years, and they can go as high as 12 years. And those warranties really drive the price up, but that's because the heater should last longer. And that's because of thicker insulation, the ability to handle more than one anode rod. Several different things can drive it. What else could drive it?
Size of the unit. They make units at 10 gallons, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 80. So depending on what your house has already installed within it is going to depend on pricing. Some homes have one unit, some will have two. But let's just take a single unit in a home. Most are going to be a 40 or 50 gallon. So that is going to impact, and the efficiency is also going to impact.
Absolutely. Right? Location is another thing. Here in Texas, for whatever reason, a lot of homes have their water heaters in their attic. Believe it or not, that's not really common throughout the United States, but it's very common here in Houston. So whether it's upstairs, in your garage, in a closet, outdoor in a building, all those things can change the cost of the installation. That is a big determining factor because of the installation.
Now, I want to say one thing to that we have sometimes our clientele or new clientele call us, and they're adamant, I want a price over the phone.
Yes.
I want a price. But the issue with that is we have so many variables to deal with, which is the gas. When the gas is burnt, how does it get out properly? The size of the unit, the efficiency of the unit. What are you looking for in a water heater, right? And if we give you a price on the phone, I can guarantee you it's 100% wrong 100% of the time. So if anybody gives you a price over the phone for a water heater installation, it's going to be wrong 100% of the time. And you're not going to be happy. You're going to be angry. So plumbing companies, some will, but some won't. We are a company that will come out and give you a free estimate.
Yes.
You have the option to say yes or no from there. Some companies will charge for an estimate.
Right.
So I highly recommend you go get an estimate and don't rely on what somebody said over the phone if you get a price.
Oh, yeah. We get phone calls like that, believe it or not, every week that they've had a price over the phone, they came out, and it switches. Oh, well, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, it wasn't what you told me. Well, that's because we don't always receive the best information over the phone because a lot of times customers aren't 100% sure.
What we will find almost 100% of the time, when you force a company to give you a price over the phone, then they come out and they're like, oh, we can't do it for that price. Well, of course they can't do it for that price because they haven't seen it. And now there's all these other things that have to be done in location or in upgrades or whatever else that has to be done. Now you feel jaded,
Yeah.
and they weren't honest with you. Well, they didn't know.
Right.
So you should be getting in-home estimates for this type of product.
Yeah, absolutely. And The other thing about the tanks that we kind of touched on earlier with the warranty is lifespan, right? So obviously the tanks with a little bit longer warranty are expected to last a little longer, wouldn't you think? If it has a 12-year manufacturer warranty, you would think it's going to last longer than the one with a 6-year manufacturer warranty.
You would think.
Lifespan of these water heaters is typically anywhere from 7 to 10 years, and that's going to depend on you, right? Do you get it maintained? Is it serviced? Here in Houston, the water's not great, so it definitely needs to be serviced annually to make sure that everything is operating properly in the way that it's supposed to be.
Cleaned, drained, burner assembly cleaned, everything. You need to do that every year.
Yeah,
a lot of people do not.
TMP valves.
And they last 7 to 10 years.
Yep.
Now, you can get over if you're maintaining.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We run into it all the time. There's tank water heaters out there that outlive their warranty. There's some that are 15, 16, 18 years old. But normally, those customers are taking care of their unit.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's go on to the tankless.
So, what does it cost in Houston to purchase a tankless water heater? Right? So, in saying that, typically a tankless water heater will start at $4,000 and up. Now, if you go by the unit, it'll typically start at $3,000 and up. And in saying that, what that's going to give you is a water heater for about a 3-bathroom house at that $4,000 and up.
Right.
Now, you have to size tankless water heaters accordingly to how many bathrooms that you have. It's not sized to how many people are in the home. I can't tell you guys how many people have told me, oh, there's only 2 of us here. Another company said we could get away with this tankless water heater. My response is, no, you can't. You've got to size the tankless water heater to the bathrooms that you have. And in saying that, that is going to dictate what model and what size that you actually need. Now, warranty. Let's talk warranty. Because they have great warranties. There are 12 years on the heat exchanger. Most of the tankless water heater manufacturers are. 12 years on the heat exchanger. Some components on the interior have 6. But all in all, they have great warranties.
Right.
And those are going to be labor and part. Some of those tanks are just parts but no labor.
Correct. Yeah.
So on tankless, they do parts and labor. So it's great.
And
size?
Real fast. So the heat exchanger, I just want to make sure they understand, that's kind of like the main component in the tankless, just like the tank is for the tankless. That's why there's that big warranty on that interior piece versus the others. Right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were going in the size.
It's the most costly part as well.
Right.
That they cover for 12 years. Now, as long as it's installed properly, it's going to last. Installed improper, it's going to burn out that heat exchanger much quicker, and you won't have a warranty. They're going to go back to install.
That's right. Absolutely. So back to what we were saying about size. It's weird because they are sized a little bit different. The terminology is different. They don't go by gallons, right? Or actually they do, I'm sorry, but it's not like the 30, 40, 50 gallon tank. It operates on how much hot water can it give you on a gallon per minute basis. So they size them anywhere from 3 gallons per minute to 11 gallons per minute. And the funny thing is those gallons per minute dictate also on how cold it can get, right? Houston doesn't ever really get that cold, so it's not a big driver. But up north, you know, those gallons can really sway due to the ground temperature and the water coming into the home. As well as, again, location's a big deal because they have outdoor units, right?
That's where mine's located, outside.
Is it in the attic? Is it in the garage? You know, depending on where it's at and the access to gas, water, stuff of that nature. But the sizing is done a little bit different, and like Richard said earlier, you know, it's how many gallons can be fed to your different fixtures to give it what it needs, and so that determines what size unit you're going to need to push those gallons per minute to you.
Correct. And speaking around that, let's talk about recovery rate, right?
This is a big plus.
That's a big one, is recovery rate. Tankless has no recovery rate. You will get all of those gallons per minute for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you want to sit in your shower 24 hours, you can. And that water temp will never become different from where it is when you got in.
That's right.
How fantastic is that?
It's a huge plus that a lot of people like with those units.
Now, on tank-type water heaters, whether it be electric or gas, you're going to have a different recovery rate.
Right.
They've got, let's say that you have a 40-gallon unit in your home, and you're going to extract the 40 gallons. Well, how fast can it recover and provide you with the hot water that you're demanding? You know, typically on a first hour for a 40-gallon unit, you'll get 60 to 70 gallons out of it. You're really going to fail on the second hour.
Right.
So where the true failure comes in with tanks is if you have a big, oversized garden or jacuzzi tub, and that tub's holding 80 to 100 gallons of water, well, you're going to extract all of that plus the recovery out of a tank unit.
Right.
So therefore, you're going to have to wait another hour to get some hot water.
Yeah, if someone tries to come in and shower right behind you or something.
Isn't going to work. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but we hear that all the time. And these new homes are, it's kind of interesting to me, because the state of Texas, we're only required to give you hot water. We're not required to give you a lot of hot water. So they're putting in these huge oversized tubs everywhere, but they're putting one 40-gallon water heater in to feed it. Well, it can't feed it.
That's right. That's
You
right.
should have gone with a tankless to begin with, because it would fill it with no problem, endlessly.
And then the lifespan, right? The lifespan
Yeah,
of those
lifespan is 20 plus years. These have been in Europe since the 40s. Great units. They've been in Texas, specifically Houston, for about since 02, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Roughly 02.
That's when they really started hitting mainstream.
Yeah, roughly. And they've been working great as long as they are installed properly. Most premature failures are due to installation problems, not because of the unit. They're fantastic units.
Absolutely.
So if you want to know more water heater cost in Houston, call us. We're here, answer all your questions, and in fact, at no cost, right?
Yeah, no
You're going to
cost.
charge them to talk on the phone?
Not at all. I like talking.
Me too.
You know, an important thing to remember is when they're, regardless of what direction you go, tank or tankless, you know, we talk about this every day in the office. It's a big topic. You know, you're talking about a pretty major investment in your home, right? But when you look at it, you know, everybody's like, man, it's quite a bit of money. When you start extrapolating how long these units last, especially if they're maintained correctly, they're really not really all that expensive for what you get out of them.
Let's do some basic math. What's 4,000 divided by 20? 200 a year.
Yeah, and break that down per month.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a lot of money
No.
for your endless hot water?
No.
Wasn't for me, at least.
Yeah, well, when you start breaking it down, you're right. It's a lot of upfront cost, but you talk about lifespan and what it takes. It's really not.
Correct. Extrapolate that on a per month basis.
It's nothing. Pennies, like I like to say.
What is that? $15 a month?
It's like 2 cents a minute.
Hey, there you go. Are you going to give me 2 cents for thoughts?
There you go. A penny for
Call
your
us. I'll do that. And that's
Yeah, I think that's it for the day, right?
today. Any questions, concerns? Call us. We're always here for you. We'll answer your questions, whatever you need, even if you don't hire us.
Yep.
See you next week.
See y'all.